Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we got Congressman Pfluger on the video chat feature here. I hope in the break you had an opportunity to make some connections with other chamber members and to learn about our sponsors in our networking portion of the platform. One housekeeping matter before we get to Congressman Pfluger. As questions come in, we're doing our best to get those within the time allotted for each speaker. They all have very busy schedules, and so we're trying to get them back to the work that they're doing for us. Additionally, please know that some of the questions get consolidated from multiple individuals, whether it's the chat feature or previous submissions onto broader topic subject areas in order to allow everyone to have that opportunity. So without further ado, Congressman Pfluger is a seventh-generation Texan who grew up in San Angelo and graduated from Angelo Central High School. He followed in his grandfather's footsteps and graduated from the United States Air Force Academy and then spent time as an officer in the Air Force for nearly 2 decades as a decorated fighter pilot, commanding hundreds of airmen and serving in the Pentagon and NATO. He's also served as an advisor to President Trump on National Security Council as colonel in the Air Force Reserves. In Congress, Representative Pfluger is a strong advocate for national security, promoting our farmers and ranchers, protecting the unborn, energy prosperity, and securing our borders. He's a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the Committee on Homeland Security, where he serves as the ranking member on the Subcommittee for Intelligence and Counterterrorism. He's also a leader of the Texas Ag Task Force and a member of the Republican Whip team. Congressman Pfluger is a conservative Republican, proud husband and father, devoted follower of Jesus Christ. He and his wife Camille live in San Angelo with their 3 young daughters. Welcome, Congressman Pfluger. It's a pleasure to have you here today, and I'll turn the floor over to you to hear from what's going on in Washington.
Well, Sean, thank you very much, and to everybody on the call and participating today, I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk with you. Have spent the last few days in Midland, Odessa, and really just so excited and humbled to serve in this capacity. It is a huge honor, and my wife Camille and I and our 3 daughters, as Sean mentioned, are just truly honored to have this opportunity. Take it very seriously. I think everybody can turn the TV on right now and see that there's a lot of news out there that is not necessarily good news. We have a lot of challenges facing our country. Some of those have impacted the Permian Basin with regards to border security in the past week. And I know we'll talk a little bit about that. But what I'd really like to start with right now is the fact that, even in the midst of some of this chaos and even in the midst of a very bitterly partisan divide between the parties, I'm still very hopeful. I'm hopeful because I'm serving with some colleagues that may not you may not be familiar with their names or their stories, but I'd like to share 1 or 2 of these folks with you. The former mayor of Miami, Carlos Jimenez, he and his family escaped Cuba, escaped Fidel Castro's grip in communist state to come to this country and live the American dream, and he has done that. Carlos has risen through the business environment, was elected mayor, is a SWAT team medic, and he really has lived the American dream. Victoria Sparks, a Ukrainian-born woman that got an MBA from the University of the Ukraine and immigrated to this country and is a financial whiz. And she is very, very smart, a fiscal conservative, but believes in the American dream. Young Kim is a Korean-born lady from California that describes her story and entry into politics as one that was unlikely, but she has a passion for the American dream. And what I want to tell everybody that's on this call right now is that the work that you do every single day to help small businesses succeed, to help people achieve their own dreams in the Permian Basin, that's the American dream. That's what these 3 colleagues that I just mentioned have done. And I'm so proud to serve with so many different people that come from different walks of life to understand that all of us believe in a prosperous economy, that we believe that if you work hard and you do the right things, that through business activities and a growing economy, that each of us can live that American dream. One thing that I am very concerned about is, and one of the reasons that I decided to run for U.S. Congress is because I'm passionate about energy, and energy security is national security. And I know that every single person that I've talked to in the last few days that I've been in Midland, Odessa, have expressed their concerns about the industry and making sure that people like Carlos, people like Young Kim, people like Victoria Sparks know about what the oil and gas industry does, what energy security means to our national security. And I think it's important that each of you know that my number one job in Congress is to represent the constituents of the 11th district, the 29 counties that go from Andrews and Ector all the way across to the east side to Hood County and down to the southeast in Llano County. And what I overwhelmingly hear from constituents is that our energy in the industry, that the oil and gas industry is under attack. And I want to make sure that each of you know that I am advocating and educating my colleagues to make sure, regardless of their party affiliation, that they know what we've done in the last 10 years, that the Permian Basin has truly revolutionized the energy industry, and that we've done so in a way that not only have we increased our own prosperity in this country, but we've also raised 1 billion people out of poverty. I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and you might ask, well, how does foreign affairs have anything to do with District 11? And I'll tell you, it has everything to do with it, because when I talk to the ambassadors from Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland, the Ukraine, these Eastern European countries, their number one topic of conversation to me is, can we make sure that we can still have access to U.S. liquid natural gas, to LNG? That is their number one concern. In fact, when I had a conversation with the Estonian ambassador, he knew exactly what day and how much and what port and what ship the LNG was shipped over to Estonia from. And it was Texas LNG, which came from the Permian Basin. And so the security of these countries that are right up against Russia is very dependent upon making sure that they don't just rely on Russia, that they're not dependent on Russia. And so it's such a unique position to be in, to serve on this particular committee that really deals every single day with the security of our partners and allies. Energy security is so important to our partners and allies, whether they're in Europe or in Asia or anywhere throughout the world. They want to make sure that they have access to affordable, reliable energy, which is what the Permian Basin has done. And in the last 10 years, the revolution that each and every one of you have been a part of matters to our security, and it matters to those of our partners and allies. So thank you for what you do. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the situation at the border. We do have a crisis. I visited the border last Monday and went to El Paso. The facilities are overflowing. And it really is a tragedy because, the number one job, I believe, of any elected official in a position, whether it's mayor or whether it's the president, is to make sure that the citizens of that community are safe and that they're protected. And right now, we have some serious concerns, and I have some serious concerns about what's going on. This affected us in the Permian Basin because overnight, a week and a half ago on Sunday, the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Homeland Security made the decision, without contacting Mayor Payton or Mayor Hoven, Judge Terry Johnson, Judge Debbie Hayes, or myself, and with no coordination, put an emergency intake facility in Midland County. And this is obviously very concerning. The lack of transparency has been very disappointing. We don't know how long that facility will be there. We do know that there are a number of children, males, 14 to 16 years old. I visited the site yesterday, and I have concerns over quite a few things. I'm happy to answer those questions, but we are demanding that there's transparency because, on the one side, we do have to keep in mind border security. It is very important. People on the terror watch list welcome in this country. On the other hand, we have received an overwhelming amount of emails and calls from people in the community, both in Midland and in Odessa, asking what we can do, ranging from providing clothing and food and things of that nature to actually providing pastoral care and counseling and the ability to have religious services, especially as Easter is approaching. And so I've asked those questions, and I've pushed as hard as I can on the people that are running the facility to let them know that people want to help. Even though we're very concerned about the crisis at the border, we still are very generous and compassionate people here in the Permian Basin, and we want to help these kids who, quite frankly, are being exploited and in a lot of cases trafficked. And I do have to tell you that one of the directors of the facility, who's been doing this type of work for over 10 years, told me yesterday that this is the highest number of children that's being trafficked in her career. That's shocking to, I think, all of us, but it's not a surprise because of some of the policies that have been put in place. And look, I don't want to make this a partisan discussion, but I think everybody needs to hear it from me that we are demanding answers, that your mayors, your judges are doing a wonderful job. Representative Landgraf, Speaker Craddock are also doing a wonderful job asking these hard questions, working with the governor to make sure that we can be safe in our own communities. And so I'd like to close with this, that even in the midst of these things that are going on, whether it's my concerns about our Second Amendment rights, which I have quite a few, or the border security, or the spending that's going on, God is in control. I believe that with all of my heart, and we are going through some challenging times. I'm impressed with my colleagues, those that I mentioned and many more that I didn't mention, because I see in these people good, earnest desire to serve, not self-aggrandizement or glory, but a real passion to serve and to be a part of something where we can represent each of our own individual districts and make this country as strong as ever. And even though we're going through some challenging times right now, I do believe that for whatever reason we're having to go through this walk right now, that on the other side of it, we are going to emerge stronger. But that it makes me feel even better about it, because I know that every single one of you on this call are helping your community. And just last night, I visited a home in Odessa where there were hundreds of volunteers who, through the snowstorm, had given their time to provide 1,500 plus meals and blankets to nursing homes, and checking on folks for welfare checks to make sure that people were okay. That's happening every day. And while I got a chance to visit 100 or so folks last night that did that, I know that each of you do that every single day. And I'd like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Sean, with that, I'm going to pause to take questions. And I sincerely thank you for letting me be part of this today.
Thank you so much for your time and patching in with us today, Congressman Pfluger. Just so you know, from a logistical standpoint, due to some technical difficulties, I'm going to go back on.
Sean, if you can relay this, I'm sorry, I'm unable to hear you. If you don't mind relaying.
Yeah, if you'll give me 1 second. What I'm going to need to do is actually do it on the phone, so I will go off camera and I'll ask questions via telephone and he'll answer. Sorry, I was just running with the setup. Oh, I can hear that. There we go.
Okay.
I'd like to start by going back to the HHS facility. You've given us a fair amount of information, but one thing we're getting questions on would be
number one question to Human Services. We've written the Secretary of HHS and Department of Homeland Security, and there's not been an answer. The initial answer that was given to me last Monday night, the very first night that I was able to visit it, and that was my first visit, was 2 to 4 weeks. However, yesterday, the directors at the facility told me that they have a nationwide search for facilities like this one. We're aware of another facility that's opening or in the process of opening in Pecos, also in Dallas. They said they've looked throughout Texas and the nation. And so I have a hard time believing that 2 to 4 weeks is the timeline if we're in the process, HHS is in the process of looking for other facilities. So we are demanding these answers. We haven't had a transparent response to these yet. And we will absolutely get this out as soon as possible, but very, very disappointed in the lack of transparency from HHS on this subject.
Congressman, is there any information as to how many children that this facility can hold?
Yes, the facility has the capability to hold up to 700 kids. And as of now, the number is somewhere in the 350 to 370 range. That's a changing number. It's a dynamic number. Of that number, the positive cases of COVID have remained between about 10 to 12%. Yesterday, I think it was at 38. Now, one of the questions that I asked Sean was, of these, these children that have COVID, have any of them had to go to the hospital because of COVID? And the answer to that was no. They have had 3 children who went to the hospital for other issues. And I said, well, who is paying for that? It is the Office of Refugee Resettlement that's within Health and Human Services that is paying for that. And so I was very concerned that, number one, that any cost would be the burden of the local community, which they have told me is not the case. We are still waiting for that answer in writing. That was a verbal answer. And the other piece of it is we also wanted to make sure that the folks who were there, the Red Cross and the HHS personnel and other people who are inside the facility that are working there and are in contact with children who do have a positive test for COVID, that they don't spread that to the community. And so they are testing the personnel, but it's not at the frequency that I would like. And I've asked them to test every single day when they go in and out of the facility.
Having been able to visit that facility, do you have any other particular concerns related to the security and the neighborhood in that area, or treatment of these individuals that come to mind that you could give us more information on?
Well, the treatment of the children is good. The children looked healthy, and they're receiving meals, and they have time to do recreational activities. I do have concerns about the security, and I've asked to see their written report of the recommendations that the Federal Protective Service officers who are guarding the exterior of the facility have made, and whether or not they've implemented those recommendations. I'm also aware that the governor is working directly with the sheriff's office in order to provide some additional funding from the state of Texas to augment those officers. So I do have concerns. They are in the process of putting up a fence, and that would be step one. And then step two is that they would put a protective covering so that nobody could look in. They haven't had any security incidents yet. I know that they're taking it seriously, but the rapid manner in which this was put together, in my opinion, had some vulnerabilities associated with it. We want to make sure that those are buttoned up and that the facility is secure. And we're going to keep asking these questions until we get a valid, transparent, and accurate response.
Congressman, thank you for those answers and those questions and your time here today. I'm going to go ahead and end the call and go back to video in order to transition to a next speaker. But thank you very much for your time and your service to the Texas 11th District.
Sean, thank you. And to everybody on the call, thank you for what you do for your community to make it more prosperous, stronger, and to work together. We're very fortunate for each and every one of you, and I look forward to meeting in person soon, but so glad that you were able to put this virtual event on. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much again, Congressman. At this time, we'll take a very short break to get Senator Pfluger into the chat, and then we'll be back. Again, the networking opportunities are still available on the left-hand side of your screen. Thank you.